Now, Matt, you and I have a shared love for magic, and I actually started learning as a teenager after I saw a magician at church, believe it or not. Learning sleight of hand and learning to manipulate a crowd and talk to people and lead them places, that actually led me to learn and develop my skeptical faculties, I'll call them. And I'm curious if you had any sort of similar experience with magic, or if maybe since then it's made other things about the way people are religious make more sense.
It certainly has in recent years. I mean, there's a home movie of me getting like my first magic kit when I was 3, but I didn't really get serious till I was maybe 10 or 11. And I've been doing it my whole life and studying it. It's kind of a secondary or maybe co-equal obsession to, philosophy and religion and other things. It's one of the reasons why I put together the Magic and Skepticism tour, because I had done a lecture that primarily relied on close-up and parlor magic to use that to teach skepticism. But I had a number of really weird encounters. I mean, when I was in the Navy, I would do tricks for people, and they would, on more than one occasion, somebody was like, "Oh my gosh, how do you handle all that demonic energy?" And I was like, I'm still a fundamentalist Christian at this point in my life, and it bothered me, not only because I practiced my ass off to fool them, but I didn't want them to think I was summoning demons. So I would show them how the trick was done. And I kid you not, they would look at me and say, "That's not what you did the first time."
Yep.
Because now it's a way of them protecting their commitment to this idea that I have supernatural powers. When I was in Australia, I was talking to a street preacher, and I had just finished a magic show there and was getting ready to do some atheist and skeptic stuff. And he was intrigued by that, so he started asking me questions. These magicians I see on TV, are they really doing magic, or is it just all tricks? And I said, well, I don't know. I suspect that it's all tricks because I can duplicate, this other stuff, and I know how it's done, and it appears to be done the same way. And as James Randi has pointed out, if they are using supernatural powers, they're doing it the hard way. And real magic is fake, and fake magic is real, and all the de facto lines that ended up in the show. But he's like, well, what about when they levitate? And so I walked a few feet away, and I did a quick levitation, and I turned around, and his jaw is just wide open. And I pulled him to the side, and I did it again where he could see from a different angle. And when I turned around, his face was he was just sunk. And I was like, don't feel that way, because you're sad because the magic was taken away. And what you should be is happy, because a minute ago, you were fooled into believing something is not true, and now you have more information, and you don't have to fall prey to that again.
Right.
Now, when I'm doing the Magic and Skepticism show, I don't really teach tricks, and I don't expose how they're done. I just do it and talk about it. And there's a couple reasons that I don't. One is that there's probably people in the audience who don't want to know how they're done.
Right.
The other is that if I tell you how I did it, I run the risk of you thinking you know how it's done. And that is dangerous, because there are many different ways to accomplish things. And you can end up kind of half smart, where now you think because you know a secret, that means you know the secret, and now you can't be fooled, which basically primes you to be fooled by somebody else. So this thing that's been with me my entire life, this obsession with magic, has turned into a really good tool to teach skepticism, to challenge people's claims about supernatural agency and stuff. And I hope to keep doing that in addition to everything else for as long as I can.
Sure. But you wouldn't say, like I was saying, that it actually helped you get to a skeptical place, that aided in your exit from religion, or it did?
It should have, and I wish it had, but the truth is, I was a huge fan of James Randi and Penn and Teller long before I ever gave up my religion, because religions are really good about creating protective mechanisms. And so I was skeptical about psychics and Bigfoot and UFOs, but I wasn't skeptical about whether or not, Jesus was divine and performed miracles. When everybody around you believes the same thing, and you're kind of in this bubble of reinforcement, it's very difficult to say, oh yes, this is something that should be challenged as well. And so while I was skeptical, I wasn't a very good skeptic, because I hadn't yet realized that it should apply to everything, and not just the supernatural, the mundane as well. When I finished the April tour and got back home, I was getting ready to go out for the May tour, and Harry Anderson died. And despite the religious movies he did late in life, I've always been a Harry Anderson fan. So I removed one of the tricks in the show that dealt with the supernatural, and I put in Harry Anderson's 3-card prince, and did to talk about how skepticism should apply to the mundane for the 3-card Monty or whatever else. Because somebody's trying to make you believe something that's not true for their benefit, and you should be aware of that.